and welcome to the November Masterclass. Today we are going to talk about redoubles. So there are a lot of different types of redoubles. The original one is the one where we want to play redouble contract, but that is not used as much anymore. So we have point redoubles, SOS, support redoubles, and double of 1-0 openings and of strong openings, and also over doubles of artificial bids such as stayman and transfers. There's also a lot of other artificial bids that it's good to have an agreement if opponent doubles, but these are the ones we're gonna focus on today. So, a redouble to play. Those are very, very rare. And we only do it if we are super sure that we think the contract is making. So we're not just going to do this if we think, it's probably a good chance we're going to make, because doing it just really increases the risk. Playing a contract double is typically a good result. So we don't really want to risk it too much, because going one off doubled might not be such a bad score, because maybe opponents have a contract they can make. But if we redouble and we actually go down, it's most likely going to be a very bad score, because we already doubled the score from the double. So instead of just going one off and just accepting that we go down and maybe opponents can make a contract, we will now have a worse score than opponents making their own contract, most likely. And it's also important that it is clear that we have a fit when we do this, because otherwise it might look like an SOS redouble, which we will talk about later. And we have to know the risk that opponents might bid. So if we get doubled by the opponent and then we redouble because we think, this is really making, and opponents had a bit of a shaky double. They were unsure if they were gonna double or sacrifice in this contract, and they decided to double. But now that we redouble, they're gonna be like, oh no, this was probably not a good idea. I think I will sacrifice instead. And maybe doubling them in their sacrifice does not give as good of a score as just playing the contract doubled. Because we remember that, well, one thing is that maybe they go down more than we would have made undoubled, but we also would have gotten a bonus from a double contract. So maybe now we need even one more trick to get a good score, or as good of a score. However, we can use this to trick the opponents into, if they think, I'm a bit unsure if I should double or sacrifice, and then we redouble, not because we think it makes, but because we want to make them pull into their sacrifice, and then they do, and we would have gone down. However, this is super risky, because if opponents don't fall for the trick, well, we're gonna have a really bad score. The most important thing is if we are planning on bidding slam. For example, we were bidding keycards, asking, and we see that we have enough keycards, but then suddenly opponents double us on the 5 level. Maybe even on the 4 level. That's a bit weird. We were gonna bid slam. Don't think, oh, thank God they saved us from bidding slam. Here we should start redoubling. Because if we were gonna bid slam, we probably have really good cards, and it's very unlikely that they can beat us in the contract on the 5 level, and they are probably trying to trick us. This is a double that Zia is quite famous for, where he doubles them to make sure that the opponents do not bid slam. Because if they play on the 5 level doubled and they make their over trick, so they make the slam, that's still not as good of a score as bidding slam. So opponents would rather play against 5 spades doubled up 1 than playing against 6 spades. However, if we are awake and we redouble, playing 5 spades redoubled is better than playing 6 spades. So here we have to be a bit careful. If we're playing against creative players, who manages to double us, we should probably try to redouble. Another example is typically if a partner is opening, for example, 4 spades, and the next person goes for a double. That double might be quite aggressive because they don't want to be left out of the bidding. Because maybe they have 12, partner has 13, something like that. Maybe they're making game, and you just don't want to pass 4 spades. So that double can be quite aggressive. Then we can redouble if we have really good cards. Like the example here, we see that our partner opened 4 spades. It is green against red, so the 4 spades can be quite weak, but still we do have 5 tricks for partner. So we only need 5 tricks from partner for 4 spades to make. So here we are pretty sure that 4 spades is making. So we want to redouble because we also think that if they decide to pass this just because they don't have any good contract to pull into, we want a better score than if they pull this, because we're pretty sure that if they bid on the 5 level in something, we're definitely going to beat that, and we're probably going to beat it by quite a lot. And here, because opponents are also red against green, we would really like them to bid, because if they do bid and we double them, it's probably going to be at least 5 tricks for us, which would be 3 down, and that is 800. So we would need more than just playing 4 spades doubled, because even if we make a lot of tricks, it's not going to give us 800. So here we could redouble. We can also do it over weak opening bids on lower levels. But then it's typically more that we want to show that we are going to double them later, because it's much less likely that they will pass this. On the 4 level, it is kind of likely that opponents passes the double if they don't have anything, but on a lower level, they usually don't. But we will talk about redoubles showing points. So we have some redoubles where we can just in general show a good hand. The most typical one is when partner has opened and then the next opponent's double. So if they open something on the 1 level, suit on the 1 level, and next person doubles, we redouble. That shows at least 10 high card points, and we want to penalize the opponents. So we probably want to penalty double something later. We're not going to do this if we have a very unbalanced hand and we don't really have any interest in penalizing opponents, because then we would much rather just bid our hand. So the top example here is South opens a diamond, that's a partner. The next person doubles, and we see that we probably want to penalty double whatever the next opponent's bid, because we have 16 high card points and we have something in all the unbid suits. So here we will redouble, and then we can penalty double later, because if we have started to redouble, it is common to play the next doubles as penalty from both players. Another example is if partner opens in week 2, for example 2 spades, and next person doubles. Now we can redouble. That is showing a strong hand, and we just want to penalize opponents. So that means we are not going to pass out the next bid opponent's bid. If opponents bid on the 3 level, we are either going to compete to our own suit, or we are going to double them. Same if they bid on the 2 level. There's also some other situations where we typically redouble to show points because we think opponents are in for a bad score. So we think that they have gotten a little bit aggressive, and here we can just either try to show a partner that we can compete 1 more level, or we can double them. So for example, we open a heart, and our partner bids 2 hearts, and then the next player doubles. Now we can redouble to say that, well, we actually have quite a good hand here. So I think either we should bid on more in our own suit, but maybe, I don't want to do that right away, maybe we want to double them if they can't find fit in a suit. Or maybe they can find fit, but they just don't have that much. So here we can redouble. We see we have 19 high card points and a really good hand, and there is no rush for us. We could just bid, usually we would just bid 4 hearts if East had passed, or maybe 3 no, but there's no rush. We can do this later. So we can see if we redouble, West bids something, maybe North has a good suit in the suit that West bids, and we can double them and get a really good score. And this can happen for both hands. It can also be a hard pass, 2 hearts, pass, pass, and then they double and we redouble. But there's a lot of different situations where we can do this redouble just to show a maximum amount of points. So they can also typically be, okay, partner, I want to compete to the 3 level, but I will just give you or me the option of penalty doubling them first. So sometimes we get penalty doubled and we're really in for it and we want to do something about it. For those situations, we have the SOS redoubles. Partner, please save me. Maybe you're sitting there with a hand where you think, oh no, I do not have any fit for partner at all. I think it would be so much better if we play another suit, but I don't really know which suit would be better. So for example, opponents open a club and our partner bids a diamond and the next player passes and we are just really weak. So we're just going to pass. We don't have any support, but we also just don't want to get any higher. And then they double and it goes pass, pass. So now we know that the North hand had a penalty pass behind with a lot of diamonds. And it doesn't look good in 1 diamond. So here we would really like to play a spade or a heart instead. The question is, which one? We don't really know. We don't want to pick one and then it turns out partner would have had support for us in the other suit, but nothing in this suit. So here we can redouble, because here is not a typical situation where we think we redouble just to make the contract because we haven't shown any fit. Of course, you can say that in the opening 4 spades we also haven't shown fit, but then partner has showed a really good suit. When partner just bids on the 1 level, it doesn't have to be that good of a suit, especially if partner is a little bit stronger. So in the situations where opponents have made a penalty pass, we get doubled, we redouble for SOS. Partner, pick one of the 2 other suits. So this is a bit of a risky convention to play. It's a really good one, but if partner doesn't know it, it can be catastrophic. Because if partner thinks we are redoubling because we have a good support and passes, it's probably a very bad score. So make sure that your partner also knows this redouble. If you're unsure of it, just don't do it. Just take a risk and just bid one of the other suits. It's too big of a risk to redouble if you think there is a possibility that partner passes. We also have support redoubles. A couple of masterclasses ago we talked about support doubles. This works in the same way, it's just instead of opponents overcalling, opponents has doubled. So for example, it goes a diamond from us, pass and a heart from partner, and the next player doubles. Now we can use the redouble to show a 3-card support. It is not 3+, it is exactly 3-card support. Because if we had more, we would have supported the suit instead. So redoubling shows exactly 3-card support. And this is usually only over a major. So some people also play it over a club, pass, a diamond, but that's not so common because it's unlikely that we're going to play the diamond suit unless we have a very good fit, so we typically only do this over a major. But if you do want to do it over diamonds as well, that's completely fine. Just make sure that you agree with your partner. And then we have some special options. For example, if we open a no trump and they double us. And here there are a lot of different options. So the most important thing is that you agree with your partner. It doesn't really matter which one we choose. It's just really important that we play the same thing as our partner. And one thing you also have to agree on is, does it matter what the double means? Some people play double as penalty. Some people play it as just a long suit or a major and a minor. There's a lot of different options. And it's important that we have talked to our partner. What do we do? Some people decide that if the double is penalty, we will use a run-out system, which I will talk about soon. But if the double is something special, we just keep our system on and pretend that the double is not there. That's something you have to choose and decide with your partner. The downside to doing it differently, according to what the double means, is that it's more things to remember. And the upside is that usually if they double and we actually have a strong hand, we might still want to bid on. So it's maybe a little bit scary to just lose all of our system. So you just have to choose. So I will give you two different options. You cannot use both of them, you have to choose one of them. And the first option is to play redouble as SOS. So typically we have a relatively balanced hand and we just want partner to pick a suit. And the rest of the bids will be natural. The other option is redoubling, showing one long suit. So we have just one suit. And if we bid a suit, it means that we have that specific suit and an unspecified higher suit. So if we, for example, bid 2 diamonds, that shows diamonds and a major. If we bid 2 clubs, it's clubs and an unspecified suit. If we bid hearts, it's hearts and spades. So you cannot combine these, you have to choose one of them. And there's also a lot of other options. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but it's just important to see how much you think you can remember. Because if you cannot remember this, it's going to be really expensive. So it doesn't come up that often. So just try to see how much you think it is worth to have of a system here. There are some systems that are really complicated in this situation and it gets a bit all the different types of hands, but those are maybe not so smart if you don't play that much. If you play a lot of bridge, maybe you can do it because it will come up more often. Another thing is when opponents double an artificial bid. Typically, a thing they can double is our stayman. So we open a no trump, partner bids 2 clubs stayman, and then they double. Now, again, there are a lot of different options, but I will give you one. And that is redouble is to play, and pass says that we have no stopper in clubs. And now if it goes pass from us and pass and partner redoubles, that will be a re-ask. And you can choose if you want to have the normal asks or if you want to play some sort of transfers or switch over the re-ask. So redouble is to play, pass is no stopper in clubs, and if we bid anything else, it's the normal answers and we also have a stopper in club. So if we bid 2 diamonds, that shows no 4-card majors and we have a stopper in clubs. If we bid 2 hearts, we have 4 or 5 hearts and a stopper in clubs, and if we bid 2 spades, it's 4 or 5 spades and a stopper in clubs. Over transfers, there's also several options. One that I will advise you to use is that redouble is a maximum hand and shows support, so typically 3-card support. And we would like to compete if the next player bids. Pass is no support, so typically 2 cards in the suit that they are transferring to, and if we do accept the transfer, we have a minimum hand and a 3-card support. If we have 4 cards, we typically still do what we would have done if they didn't double, so if we have anything special there, we keep that system. And what if opponents double our strong openings? So that is normally 2 clubs opening. Some people also play other openings. What do we do then? So we have the options of pass, redouble, and bidding. And my suggestion is redouble to play. Pass shows a game-forcing hand, so at least 5+ and balanced. And 2 diamonds is a weak hand and doesn't say anything about the suit. It's just our waiting response, but this time it is actually weak because we have more room. So 0 to 4, I got points and any hand, and the rest is just natural. And it's also typical that when opponents start bidding, we do have lower criteria for the quality of the suit we're bidding, because it's more likely that opponents are gonna keep bidding, and if we're bidding competitively, it's more important to just get our shape out more quickly. So let's summarize this. Redoubles are usually used for something else than to play. And we have a lot of different types of redoubles, and it is very important that we discuss with our partner what the different redoubles means. And it is extremely costly if it is misunderstood. So it's much better to have fewer agreements and use the redouble less than ending up with very costly mistakes. Most of the time when we redouble, it is to show points, but in some situations it is, for example, SOS or showing support. And also we have the redoubles after artificial openings and one no trump openings that can have a very specific meaning. And those, again, you just have to agree with your partner, and you do not at all have to play the way I suggested. That is just the way I do it, usually. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation, and see you at the tournament.